civil rights. As I address this audience of young adults, I invite your careful attention to what I say on these subjects, because I am describing conditions you will face and challenges you must confront. First, silencing religious voices in the public square. A writer for the Christian Science Monitor predicts that the coming century will be very secular and religiously antagonistic, with intolerance of Christianity rising to levels many of us have not believed possible in our lifetimes. End of quote. Otherwise, observers have noted the ever-growing, relentless attack on the Christian religion by forces who reject the existence or authority of God. The extent and nature of religious devotion in this nation is changing. The tide of public opinion in favor of religion is receding, and this probably portends public pressures for laws that will impinge on religious freedom. Atheism has always been hostile to religion, such as in its arguments that freedom of or for religion should include freedom from religion. Atheism's threat rises as its proponents grow in numbers and aggressiveness. By some counts, a recent article in The Economist declares, there are at least 500 million declared non-believers in the world, enough to make atheism the fourth biggest religion. End of quote. And atheism spokesmen are aggressive, as recent publications show. As noted by John A. Howard of the Howard Center for Family, Religion, and Society, these voices, quote, have developed great skills in demonizing those who disagree with them, turning their opponents into objects of fear, hatred, and scorn. End of quote. Such forces, atheists and others, would intimidate persons with religious-based points of view from influencing or making the laws of their state or nation. Noted author and legal commentator Hugh Hewitt described the current circumstance in this way, quote, there is a growing anti-religious bigotry in the United States. For 3 decades, people of faith have watched a systematic and very effective effort waged in the courts and the media to drive them from the public square and to delegitimize their participation in politics as somehow threatening. End of quote. For example, a prominent gay rights spokesman gave this explanation for his objection to our church's position on California's Proposition 8. Quote, I'm not intending it to harm the religion. I think they do wonderful things. Nicest people. My single goal is to get them out of the same-sex marriage business and back to helping hurricane victims. End of quote. Aside from the obvious fact that this objection would deny free speech as well as religious freedom to members of our church and its coalition partners, there are other reasons why the public square must be open to religious ideas and religious persons. As Richard John Newhouse said many years ago, quote, in a democracy that is free and robust, an opinion is no more disqualified for being religious than for being atheistic or psychoanalytic or Marxist or just plain dumb. End of quote. Second, religious freedom diluted by other civil rights. A second threat to religious freedom is from those who perceive it to be in conflict with the newly alleged civil right of same-gender couples to enjoy the privileges of marriage. We've endured a wave of media-reported charges that the Mormons are trying to deny people or strip people of their rights. After a significant majority of California voters, 7 million, over 52%, approved Proposition 8's limiting marriage to a man and a woman, some opponents characterized the vote as denying people their civil rights. In fact, the Proposition 8 battle was not about civil rights, but about what equal rights demand and what religious rights protect. At no time did anyone question or jeopardize the civil right of Proposition 8 opponents to vote or speak their views. The real issue in the Proposition 8 debate, an issue that will not go away in years to come and for whose resolution it is critical that we protect everyone's freedom of speech and the equally important freedom to stand for religious beliefs, is whether the opponents of Proposition 8 should be allowed to change the vital institution of marriage itself. The marriage union of a man and a woman has been the teaching of the Judeo-Christian scriptures and the core legal definition and practice of marriage in Western culture for thousands of years. Those who seek to change the foundation of marriage should not be allowed to pretend that those who defend the ancient order are trampling on civil rights. The supporters of Proposition 8 were exercising their constitutional right to defend the institution of marriage, an institution of transcendent importance that they, along with countless others of many persuasions, feel conscientiously obliged to protect. Religious freedom needs defending against the claims of newly asserted human rights. The so-called Yogyakarta Principles, published by an international human rights group, call for governments to assure that all persons have the right to practice their religious beliefs, regardless of sexual orientation or identity. This apparently proposes that governments require churches and their doctrine and practices to ignore gender differences. Any such effort to have governments invade religion to overcome religious doctrines or practices should be resisted by all believers. At the same time, all who conduct such resistance should frame their advocacy and their personal relations so that they are never seen as being doctrinaire opponents of the very real civil rights, such as free speech, of their adversaries or any other disadvantaged group. And now, in conclusion, I offer 5 points of counsel on how Latter-day Saints should conduct themselves to enhance religious freedom in this period of turmoil and challenge. First, we must speak with love, always showing patience, understanding, and compassion toward our adversaries. We are under command to love our neighbor, to forgive all men, to do good to them who despitefully use us, and to conduct our teaching in mildness and meekness. Even as we seek to speak with love, we must not be surprised when our positions are ridiculed and we are persecuted and reviled. As the Savior said, so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. And modern revelation commands us not to revile against revilers.